Okay, well, hello and welcome back to another episode of I Believe She's Amazing, where I have the great fortune to bring compelling, empowering, inspiring stories about women that I have come across in, personal, my day-to-day life or online. And today, my guest is Miss Cynda Bradley, who it's so funny with social media. I hardly remember sometimes how I connect with people, but I think I read a story about you online. I don't know if it was a blog or something. And I was just like smitten. I was like, this girl is so young. She's amazing. You were in your early 20s. I know you're still in your early 20s, but you were quite young when I first read this blog. And I started following you. I read your blog, just followed your journey. And I'm personally just so inspired by everything that you've accomplished so far, which we're going to get into. And I know Cynda, we had a pre-call a week ago, and she was like, I don't feel like I've done that much. I'm like, girl, you have done a lot already. So just, sharing stories about, where you're at and what you've done. So with that, I would love to just hand it over to you real quick and just share a little bit about how you started. Let's start from the beginning, how you started at 17, how you embarked on your journey in the military. So go ahead and share that.
Yes, thanks, Kim, and thanks for having me. So happy to be here. Way back when, 17 years old, junior in high school, I had kind of had some experience with JROTC or junior ROTC, which is like a branch of the military that, not necessarily a branch, but almost like a program that you can do as a high school student to just kind of put your toe in the water, see if you like the environment or how you feel about it. And so I did that throughout high school, and we had a recruiter on our high school campus that worked really hard to get people to join the military. Obviously, that was his job. And I was one of the victims. I was one of the ones that signed my name on the paper. But yeah, at 17, I had to get my parents' consent, get their signature, and I joined the military. And the Army, specifically in the Army, it has a program called Split Op or Split Operations, where even as a high school student, you can split your training into 2 summers so you don't miss any high school. And so that's exactly what I did. So the summer after my junior year, I went to boot camp or basic training, and that was 10 weeks long. And then I came back. I literally missed the 2 first days of my senior year of high school because I was literally coming back from boot camp, which was pretty cool to walk back and be like, sorry guys, like I was in boot camp. I'm sorry I'm late,
When
But
you summer, I just went to boot camp.
yeah, no big deal. And then came back, finished out senior year, and then the second summer I went back to my secondary training that we call AIT. It's Advanced Individual Training, and so you have like a specific job in the military, and you go to AIT to learn how to do that job. And so at the time when I was enlisted, my job was actually a carpenter. I was a carpentry and masonry specialist. So I learned like basic wall construction, so random, I know, like little me with a hammer, I know, and just like shingles, roofing, masonry work, doing bricks, learning how to pour concrete, just all kinds of things, basic carpentry. And that course was about 8 weeks long, and actually was in Mississippi, which was nice because I'm from Mississippi, and so I was like 3 hours from home in a military setting, but home was like so close, so that was nice, especially as an 18-year-old. But yeah, so that's how everything kind of got started with the military.
Unbelievable. Okay, that in itself, to have the thought that you want to put yourself, because we all know, I mean, I've never been in the military, but I know lots of people who have, and we all know the dedication and the discipline and the grueling schedule that you have to undertake. What do you think it was that made you willing to put yourself in such strenuous circumstances by your own free will?
I know. Like people are like, you signed up for that? Like, yeah, I love it. I did have some like mentorship playing out. I have an older sister, her husband's in the military. He's a lieutenant colonel, which is crazy because when they met in college. So he followed the same path I did through ROTC in college. So when I first met him, he was a lieutenant, which is my rank now. So it's awesome to see how he's climbed the ranks just that fast to lieutenant colonel. So I definitely had some mentorship coming from him. And then I have an older cousin also that was a senior in high school when I was a freshman, and she also did junior ROTC. So it's kind of like, oh, Allison's doing it. Let me sign up to do it. And I actually just ended up loving it. I love like, it's just, I guess, the type of person, if you like read my personality type or whatever, you would just see that I like structure. I like rules. Like I like being told, all right, this is what we have to get done, go do it. And that's all things that the military just revolves around, just structure and like discipline. And that's just I love that type of organization. So I think very early on, I just loved it and I knew it was the right decision.
I love it. And how long did you do carpentry? You started at 18 when you finished
Mhm.
high school. So how long did you which is we didn't chat about that last week. You left that part
Yeah.
out.
Um, so I guess say for 6 years, it kind of overlaps. So once you get into ROTC in college, you become like your primary job in the military is a cadet at that point. And so the Army's priority is to get you to commission as an officer, finish college, finish your ROTC program. They're not too much worried about what your enlisted job was. Like once you become a cadet, you can't be deployed. You're kind of flagged because they're like, we want you to finish this, be an officer, and be able to like take the next step in your career. And so it kind of overlapped. I hit my 6 year mark, which is a normal contract. I hit 6 years. I could have very well gotten out. I didn't. I signed a 10-year contract. So now I'm in for the long run. Seriously, I'd have. So
Wow.
right at 6 years was when I was getting ready to graduate, getting ready to commission, and I was about to start like my career in aviation. So it's about 6 years enlisted, and then I commissioned 2021. So I'm going on 8 years in total. It's been
Wow.
2 years since I commissioned, which is so crazy to think about. 8
It's
years,
and
wow.
you're still so young.
Yeah,
8 years and you're still so young. Like it's incredible to me to think about how, the different paths that people can take and the things that you can accomplish in such a short time, which you have, despite what you might think. And so before we move on to what you're doing now, I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you how you think the military changed you. How did it, what has been the influence on you? Because 17 is so young, you're still
Yeah,
fairly impressionable. How would you think that that has really changed and transformed the person that you are today?
yeah, I think that, like, being sent away from home at such a young age does a lot, especially as far as just, like, social skills and being able to make new friends in a new place. So, like, basic training, for instance, was in South Carolina, and yes, my AIT was in Mississippi, but I still was not home, I was still in a new place, in a new environment, and anywhere you go in the military, you're gonna meet new people, you're gonna be surrounded by people you don't know, and you just have to make those friends. Like, it's on you to, like, get out there and make friends. And I wouldn't say I was a quiet kid, but I was just kinda like a happy medium, like, not super flamboyant, outgoing, but not, like, to myself in the corner, really quiet, but just kind of the middleman. And so I think that the military kinda helped me in just developing that confidence to, like, reach out to people. Like, now I'm so much more social, and I just love, like, if I see someone sitting alone, I wanna go talk to that person. Like, for instance, after college, I moved to Austin, Texas by myself to a brand new job, brand new city. I'd never lived outside of Mississippi ever, aside from just being in training for the military, and so it was like being able to move to Texas from Mississippi and make all new friends, join a new church, just all new things, like do life. I lived by myself. So it's really like it was just a whole like big step. And I think that like the military putting you in those settings of not knowing anyone and like kind of forcing you to, make those new connections kind of helps me throughout adulthood now, just being able to city hop and make new friends and feel, comfortable like I'm at home away from home everywhere I go.
What an amazing skill to have at such a young age, because so many people are limited by their fears or who they
Mhm.
define themselves as. If you were a little bit more on the shy side before, thinking that you can't be that version of yourself. And I love to hear, because I'm all about transformation and who are you now. So I love to hear that you underwent the journey, and you don't really know what the outcome is going to be before when you're 17 and 18, you don't know that you're on the other side, you're going to come out like feeling empowered and able to live on your own, make
No.
new friends. How awesome is that? And that's kind of one of the magics of the journey of life, right? You sometimes don't know where it's going to take you, but you do it scared. And I'm sure when you first joined, there was a little bit of fear.
For sure. It
Yeah.
just the unknown, like not knowing what you don't know, and wondering, I don't know if this is gonna work out or not, but we're just gonna do it and hope for the best. So
Yes. Do you think that some of your um, commitment to religion has given you the ability to have faith in the unknown and to have to lean into that. Like, I know it's going to work out. I know I've got a greater hand watching over me. Do you think that that has somehow influenced your conviction to do things and try things?
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That's
I,
a whole like rabbit hole to go down, but yeah, 100%. Just having like faith in something,
yeah.
trusting that somewhere someone has their hands on me and this will work out for the better good. So for
Yeah.
sure.
I think that's a great way to live your life, is knowing that there is this higher force that is guiding you,
Hmm.
that is watching over you. I think that's so amazing. And so from
And I, oh,
yeah,
sorry,
go
I was just going to say also with just moving from so many different cities to city, um, that's honestly been the best way I've made new friends is connecting with the church. Like that's almost always the first thing I do when I go somewhere. And especially where I am now, like being stationed at a military base. Sometimes I like to feel like I'm not in the military. I like to feel normal.
yeah,
And so I found a church that's about 30 minutes away. And whenever I go, it's just kind of like I can forget like where I'm stationed. I can forget my obligations. I just feel like a normal girl in her 20s just enjoying life. And so that's honestly been one of the main ways I've connected in these new places and like met new people and made some really good friends.
I think it's so interesting that you said that, because we, before we started recording this, we were talking about podcasts that we listen to, and you and I are both love podcasts and learning, and I feel like one of the things that holds people back, particularly at a young age, and particularly now, I feel like, especially I guess because we're coming out of such a unprecedented time with the pandemic, is people having the sense of isolation. And what I'm hearing from
Mhm.
you is that you have developed this incredible ability to create community and connection wherever you go, and the common ground for you has been the church and religion. So what a great way to not, because you could easily just sit in your apartment in whatever place you're stationed in and just feel isolated and alone.
Oh
But
yeah, for sure.
yourself out there, it's so great.
Hmm.
And changing the way you feel.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Okay, so then your then you went to Mississippi State and you
Yes,
studied interior design. Was that
I did.
inspired by the fact that you did carpentry?
Kind of vice versa. So I knew that I wanted to go to Mississippi State before I knew I wanted to join the military. And initially, I wanted to major in architecture. And so when I did decide to join the military, I told my recruiter that I was like, I'm planning to go to Mississippi State. I want to major in architecture. Like, what is the most like parallel career path I could take? And so it was carpentry. And in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like if I get into real estate or I want to flip houses, like I have that basis of knowledge in carpentry. And I got to Mississippi State freshman year, found out architecture wasn't really my vibe, but I enjoyed the field, just not, it was a lot more technical and just structural, if that makes sense, than interior design. It's just a little bit more creative and like, I don't know, the juices are really flowing on that side in different ways. I don't know. I just loved it so much more.
Yeah.
And so I switched majors, and I mean, the carpentry and masonry that still played a good part in, I feel like, my career. That was something I could, mention in an interview. I do have a background in this, but I did end up switching to interior design. Absolutely loved it.
It's it is so different, because I know my husband loves interior design. He's not an interior designer or builder. He's
Mhm.
done so many renovations and flipped houses and stuff, but that creative side is really the interior design side, which, by the way, I don't have a single creative interior design bone in my body. If it was left up to me, I think I just have like believe and butterflies like all over the house. My husband luckily takes care of all of that. So, and then you got a job right after, because you just graduated last year,
Yes. Or
2020.
yeah, 21 now.
Oh,
So almost,
21.
yeah.
Oh,
I know time is flying.
yeah.
So I graduated in August, technically, because my last graduation requirement was to do an internship. And so although I walked the stage in May, I still had one more graduation requirement. And that's what, prompted me to do all these job applications all over the US and just see where I end up, trust.
Yeah.
And so I ended up in Austin, Texas, and got an interior design job out there that was considered my internship. So I did that over the summer of 2021. And then August, I like officially graduated because that was my last requirement, and then I got offered a full-time job there. So I ended up staying for a year until I had to move here. So yeah, Austin was fun. I loved it. I love Texas so much.
Texas is a great place. It's such a different energy,
Oh
Texas.
yeah.
Yeah. Big,
It's
big.
its own state over there, or like country. Just like it's just Texas. Like there's us, the US, and then there's Texas.
Literally, literally. It's so funny. And now you're back in Mississippi.
Now I'm in Alabama.
I'm sorry, that's right. You're in Alabama.
No, it's okay.
You're
Yes,
like,
I know.
oh,
I'm just like beep bop.
I love
Yes.
it. Okay, so now let's move on. So interior design, and I think from what we shared in our conversation, interior design is really something that you want to continue to pursue once you've finished with your 10 years in the military, right? Once your assignment is complete.
I did enjoy it, but I've found that like through, and I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but going through flight school, I found that I really do love to fly, and
Wow.
so now it's kind of just like I don't know what the end goal is going to be. Like,
Yeah.
if I can pursue both, I would love to do that. But yeah, I don't know. They're two totally opposite career paths that I'm trying to make work together, and I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we'll just see.
Well, what you could do is just have the most beautifully furnished home, and then like
Mhm.
do that for all your friends, and you could have it on the side and then fly full time. But I love the diversity of things that you've pursued. I'm really fascinated by the choices that you've made, and I know just from my own experience how well-rounded that makes you, whether you honestly sometimes whether you even use that going down the road, you'll find
That's
as the
true.
years go on somehow it will all connect somehow some way. Okay, so now this is the coolest thing, because as I said, I follow Cynda on Instagram, and I'm just like, I find so many times I look at your pictures and my jaw is like, what? I'll even say if my kids are saying something, "Ooh, this girl's now she's flying a helicopter." So now Cynda is in flight school flying a
Mhm.
helicopter. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so well, when you go through ROTC, you kind of have the opportunity to switch what branch or career path you want to take within the Army. And so when I was doing carpentry work, that fell under the engineering branch within the Army. And there's so many branches out there, military intelligence, like quartermaster, all kinds of things you could think of. But aviation is one of those branches. And I honestly didn't consider it initially. I was planning on commissioning into the engineering branch and just staying true to what I knew. I was enlisted in that branch. I thought I want to be an officer in this branch, go back to my old unit and just, take on more responsibility. But there was one summer we were doing what we call annual training. It's just a 2-week training period throughout the summer every year. And one of my friends had texted me and she's like, "Hey, her dad was a major. She's like, "Hey, my dad got me on a flight on a Chinook helicopter. I can bring someone. Do you want to come?" I'm like, yes. So of course I do. I'd never been on a helicopter before. Like, just like, yep, sign me up. I'll be there. And so I go on this helicopter ride. Absolutely incredible. There are like airborne guys on there with us. So there's like two sides that you could sit on, and the sides face each other. So on my side, there were just like regular, junior enlisted soldiers that just got to hop on a flight and were lucky. And then on the other side were these airborne guys, and the helicopter was like climbing up 14,000 feet. So these guys could jump out the back. No, it was insane. And we literally got to just watch them like do their backflips off the back of the helicopter at like 14,000 feet in the air. It was so cool. But that was my first flight, and afterwards, I realized, like, I wasn't too concerned with the guys jumping out. I wasn't too concerned with, like, the crew chiefs working in the back or, like, making sure everything was good in the back of the helicopter. Like, the entire time I was on that flight, I was wondering, "I wish I could see what was going on in the cockpit." Like, I really wanna know what's going on up there. I wanna hear, like, what they're saying, what they're talking about, like, how this coordination is going. And so, honestly, that flight kinda sparked my interest in, like, "Okay, maybe I should pursue aviation. Maybe I should, like, start looking into this." And everything just it worked out so perfectly. It's crazy. That was 2020, and obviously that's when COVID really blew up. And being in the National Guard, there were COVID orders for the National Guard to like be activated and like facilitate like testing sites and things like that at like nursing homes, prisons, wherever the state would send us that they needed tests to be performed, we would go, we'd set up a testing site. And I volunteered for these orders. I got put on a team, and my team leader for my COVID orders was a pilot in the Mississippi National Guard. I'm telling you, it could not work out any more perfect. And so I started talking to him. He flew Black Hawks, but he knew the commander for the Chinook unit, and that was the aircraft that I had flown on when I was still enlisted. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, can you like connect me with him? Like, I would love to talk to him. So I reach out to this commander that commands the Chinook unit, and I'm just like, hey, like, you probably don't know me. I did get to ride with you guys on a flight last summer and absolutely loved it. Would love to just come like shadow you, just kind of learn what you guys do. And long story short, like I ended up joining the unit. Like they wrote me a letter of acceptance to like transfer from my engineering unit to their unit. And I got slotted for flight school. I graduated commission and I had that gap year that I worked in Austin. And once my year was up, I headed to Fort Rucker for Army Flight School, and that's where I am now. So it's so crazy how perfect it all worked out. But yeah, that is it in a nutshell.
Okay, so the whole time you're talking, I literally have goosebumps. I always say I'm such a cheap thrill because when people say things that inspire me, I'm just literally covered. Like you can't see them, but my hair is standing up because it's so cool. We were talking about this right before we jumped on here, this podcast that I was listening to this morning from Mel Robbins about the power of synchronicity. So it's almost it's almost too perfect for you that you could even think it was anything coincidental. It was pure synchronicity. Yeah. And just a couple of things that I wanted to point out that I hear, and that is the power of saying yes to things and the power of obviously whatever you were thinking and not being 100% sure that engineering was for you and being open to this other alternative path potentially, but you weren't sure what it was. And like no coincidence that your friend calls you and says, hey, have an extra seat on this Chinook helicopter. Do you want to come? And you said yes. So, that's part of the power of saying yes. And then even just your curiosity, I love that at your young age, you have this real sense of curiosity and wonder about the world, and you're willing to not pigeonhole yourself into one thing. Where do you think that comes from? Like, were you raised that way, or do you think it's just innately who you are?
That's a good question. I really don't know. And I have realized that I think there's an underlying fear of like settling in one thing and like not enjoying it for the rest of my life. And so just all throughout college, like, I always had different part-time jobs. I was always doing something different, keeping myself busy. I think just because there was a fear of like, if I focus on one thing, like, what if I don't like it? I'm going to need a backup plan. And so I kind of think that like plays into like why I'm always like just so diverse in what I'm like giving my time into, just because I'm like, well, what if this doesn't work out? Well, I have this over here. What if this doesn't work out? I don't know. So, I mean, even now, just all the little hobbies, like I mentioned real estate, like I'm trying to get into real estate, but then also like I started doing like the low content books on Amazon that you can make and you can just sell. Like, it's just like, I just stick my toes in all these little ponds of water that are just so random. And I'm like, let me try this out. This might work out for me too. And it's like, I never just sit and focus on one thing. So it can only go so far when I'm not giving it my 100%, but still like, it's just like, I don't know. It's just something about having another way out just in case something doesn't work out. And I think that's what keeps me like motivated to just kind of keep things, I don't know, shaken up, not just perfect.
Yeah. Well, I think, there's nothing bigger than shaking things up in a Chinook helicopter. That's pretty big.
Yeah, for sure. People joke like, because I don't know if you know what a Chinook looks like, but it's like the largest aircraft the Army has. At least helicopter.
Yes, I've seen
yes,
that was one of the jaw-dropping moments. And I was like, what is this girl doing now? She's in a helicopter.
Yeah, so it's like a running joke. Like, of course, the Army has like several helicopters, but there's some that like you can maybe fit like, it could be a medevac like type job. So you can fit a hoist with a person that needs to go to a hospital, or there are like other helicopters that literally only sit the pilot and the co-pilot and no one else. And then there's this huge Chinook, and people always joke like, yeah, when y'all get to the field, y'all get to pack your grill, your refrigerator, your generator, like literally bring everything because you have so much space. And it's so true. That thing's huge.
It is a monster. It is it and you're this petite little lady, which I also love. I love that you are defying the odds. And I think that's really because I have three daughters that are in and around your age. And so I think it's so compelling to see a young woman like you that is beautiful, and you put yourself together well, and you're also this badass flying the largest helicopter in the sky. Like, it's so cool. Do you think about it like that, or do you just because I also and we've raised our daughters this way too. It doesn't matter what you do with your gender. It's like, do whatever you want to do, whatever excites
Yeah.
you and interests you. I think sometimes we get a little bit too caught up in gender, and whether you're a male or a female, or whatever, all the things in between. But it's like, what lights you up? Is that how you see it too, or do you think like, wow, I'm a girl flying a helicopter?
You know, honestly, I don't think of it too much as a big deal, and a lot of my friends fuss at me for that, but even when, like, meeting new people, like I mentioned church, and it's, like, 30 minutes from Fort Rucker, so I can show up and people don't assume that I'm here for the military 'cause I look like this, I look like a normal just girl in her 20s, right? And the people that do know what I do, like, whenever I introduce myself to someone, they'll always, like, hint, and they'll be like, "You didn't tell them what you do, you left that part out," and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, here we go again." It's honestly something I choose not to mention often just because I mean, it's awesome, don't get me wrong, and it's like the opportunity of a lifetime, but I don't know, it just isn't everything. It's the career path, it's like, doing my due diligence, like, to the country I'm serving in this capacity because that's what interests me, but it's just not the world, it just doesn't make me who I am. It's not something I wanna identify as only, "Oh, that's the girl, that's the pilot." Like, there are so many bigger things that I'd like to be known for, like, that's the girl that's on fire for Jesus, or that's the girl who would give you the clothes off her back, or that's the girl, who would, do whatever you need her to do for you, like, for even a stranger. Like, those are bigger things that I would love to be known for. And so all of that, like, don't get me wrong, it is the opportunity of a lifetime. I absolutely love it. And Kim, I cannot, like, explain enough, like, how every time we pick up the helicopter and we just, like, come over the tree line, you get that first, like, glimpse of the horizon. It just puts a smile on my face every single time. I absolutely love it. There is no place I'd rather be than in the sky. But at the end of the day, it's just like it's still a career path, and it's just something I'm doing as service to my country, and it's not everything, if that makes sense.
You gave me goosebumps again. Oh, yeah,
Kim.
this is becoming a pattern. I love that. I love that you said that. And I've never heard anybody articulate it quite that way. I think that's so beautiful and so profound to say that you can still be inspired and excited and lit up by what you're doing, but it doesn't define you. The qualities that define you are your kindness, your generosity, your faith, and I love that, because what's so powerful about that, Cynda, is that those are the things that you take with you wherever you go, whatever you do, and whomever you're with. It's the core
Yeah.
values, really. What I'm hearing you say is the core values of who you are. Amazing. I think I just like fell in awe with you a little bit more.
Oh
Oh
my gosh. You're
goodness.
so sweet.
No, I think it's so incredible. So what do you do, or do you have like habits that you do on a daily basis, things that keep you grounded to those core values?
I try to, like, be pretty good with, like a not necessarily a schedule, but more so like a routine. So morning routine, night routine. And especially during this time when I'm on hold waiting for my next phase of training to start, I really try to make the most of my days because my only obligation throughout the days right now while I'm on hold is we have PT in the morning when we go work out. And that's normally when I'll go run and stuff. But that's at 5 in the morning. And it's like that lasts, we're done by 7, and then there's the rest of the day. And so I'm very like intentional about not wasting those days away, especially when I have time. So I mean, there's not too much to do. I'm in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, but I do just try to like keep up with errands. I read a lot. I love to read. And when flight school was more active, when I was like actually in my last course learning the Lakota, there was just no time for things that didn't involve flight school. Like every free moment you had, you were studying, you were getting ready for the next test or the next check ride. And now that I'm a hold, I can do more of the things that I enjoy because I don't have that, those things to study or anything to cram for right now. And so I'm sitting at my desk right now. I will sit here at this desk for 3 or 4 hours a day and just like read like whatever or just like research things online, like just trying to just keep learning always and just make the most of my days.
Okay, that's that's so amazing. So, okay, there's a whole bunch of questions in my head and they're all wanting to come out first. So I'm going to start with the first one, which just out of curiosity, is flight school finished or when will flight school be completely finished? Because you're on a little break now.
So give or take, I don't know the exact date I'll finish, but I would estimate about 6 months that I have left here.
Wow.
So the course that I finished recently is essentially our trainer helicopter. It's the helicopter everyone learns to fly on. And that's about a 6 month. I don't remember how many weeks it is exactly, but it was about 6 months worth of learning and just like learning to fly a helicopter literally for the first time ever. Um, and so I finished that about 3 weeks ago. And so now I'm waiting to start the Chinook course. And then the Chinook course, when it starts, is 16 weeks long. And after that's over, I'll have like a 2 or 3 week like wrap up type deal. And then I'll be back to Mississippi at my unit, actually flying, like officially pinning my wings as a pilot. So right now I'm still in the flight school status, not officially a pilot, don't have my wings pinned to me or anything like that. I'm just, you could essentially say halfway through my training.
Okay. Okay. That helps me. And then as far as your personal growth and your learning, your hunger for learning, what is the end result for you? Do you look at, are you consciously aware of like, this is the kind of person I am growing into? And that's where this discipline and devotion to your faith and to reading and learning comes from? Or is it just this habit that you've developed for yourself that it makes you feel good and you feel, despite the fact that you're a helicopter pilot in the air, you feel grounded in your values by continually learning and growing and transforming? Like, where do you think that comes from?
Honestly, I think it has a lot to do with just growing up and just seeing how like my parents lived as adults and like the things that they had to deal with. And there were a lot of like hardship times that we experienced as a family, especially when I was like in middle school. My stepdad was laid off and just kind of like experiencing the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle and being a young, like expensive kid that wanted to do band and wanted to play tennis and, wanted to do all these things. And so I think that like growing up and seeing how life was kind of motivates me to start earlier, and just like putting all my eggs in the right baskets to make life a little easier down the road. Obviously, I don't have children yet. I have a cat. He is living a happy life. He has plenty of food and water. Has no worries in the world, so he's taken care of. But one day if I do have children or whatever the case may be, I really want to be able to say, like, when I was in my 20s, I put all these investments into this basket, or I started doing real estate. And so when you turn 18, you don't have to worry about things because I have so much passive income that is now going to be handed down to you. Or generational income. It just kind of motivates me to like just change that lifestyle that I grew up in, and just try to, I don't know, make life easier for me in the long run. Honestly, that's kind of what motivates me.
Oh, wow. Okay, so goosebumps again. You're doing this to me. What are you doing to this? Is why I wanted to include you. Um, because I love it. I love, I work with so many different people. I coach people in business, and it sometimes is very sad and heartbreaking to see people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and sometimes even older, that are so broken and so lost, and they've forgotten their own personal value and what they can do to create change. And I think that from your circumstances, come from a similar background myself. And it's either it motivates you to run away from those things, but to change yourself in the process and grow, or you end up in the same cycle, right? So you kind of have these
Mhm.
two choices. So I really honor the fact that you're so young and that you're consciously making these choices to have things turn out differently. And there's a lot of the stuff that I listen to about changing the legacy of the generation, and for you to have the where would like the mental capacity and the thought and the conscious awareness to say, like, this is it, this is ending with me. I didn't figure that out until I was in my 40s. And so I just applaud you for that, Cindy. I think that is just unbelievably inspiring and
Well,
amazing.
thank you.
Yeah, whatever you undertake,
And
I'm
it's never too late to start whatever. Like my mom, for instance, she worked in a hospital for over 20 years, but she always had a passion for baking cakes. And she's in her 50s now. And just 2 years ago, she bought a building and opened a storefront bakery. And I mean, she's thriving. And it's like, it took to her 50s for her to start living out her dream of just being a full time baker. But like, whenever it happens, it happens, and that motivates me too. It's just like, it doesn't matter what the age is, where you are in life, like, just do it.
Yes.
Just do it.
Yes, I love that. I love you. You're probably equally inspiring and motivating each other too, right? Your mom and you.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I find that with my
Mhm.
kids too, my daughters, as I said, are all in their 20s. And as much as I think they've learned a lot from watching me build a business and create success and change our lifestyle and get out of corporate and all the things that I've been able to do. But I'm equally inspired by what they're doing and watching their passions. I think it's so beautiful when parents and parents and children can equally vibe off of each other, rather than it being this relationship of I'm the boss and I'm the mom and you're going to listen to what I say. So you obviously had really phenomenal parents. And I'm so sorry. I know you lost your dad last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. How are you doing now?
Um, I think it's just one of those things that just takes time. I
Yeah.
have siblings that, all are going through the same thing. So I think it helps having that support system, knowing you're not alone.
Yeah.
But it is just weird. It's just a void that you just can't explain. But we're all getting through it in our own way. So
Yeah. Yeah. When challenges hit us and they come in so many different forms, losing a loved one is for sure one of the hardest and most challenging.
yeah.
And I've as somebody who I've lost both my parents quite young. I feel like they're with you all the time. It's just
Hmm.
it's change. They change form. They're not physically with you, but they're watching over you for sure as a guardian angel and
Yeah.
having a hand in what you do. And I'm sure incredibly proud of who you are
Yeah.
and all that you're accomplishing.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And my dad was like a big guitar player, and he gifted me a guitar when I was in high school. And I have his guitars now that I like have at my home. And so it's almost like every day I see his guitars and it's just a reminder like he's here.
Yes.
Like I have a piece of him with me always. And it just kind of helps me get through my days. So
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. There's so much learning and growth that comes through that on the other side. But yeah, I think I feel like they're gone, but never forgotten. And I know even for me, my
yeah.
kids didn't get the chance to meet my mom, and they'll often say to me, I feel like I know her because you talk about her so much. So when
Yeah.
the time comes down the road when you have children, just keep talking about your dad, and you'll see little
Hmm.
glimpses of him, I'm sure, in your kids, as I do with my parents too. So what's next for you? I know you're going to finish flight school. You've got all these amazing things that you're taking on. Do you make like short-term goals, long-term goals? How do you sort of map out what's next for you?
Honestly, a little bit of both. I think right now I'm primarily focused on short term goals, maybe like a 5 year outlook. And as of right now, I'm kind of interested in pursuing a civilian job in aviation because I am in the National Guard. And so once I'm out of flight school, I won't be like full time Army anymore. I'll be able to like pick back up a civilian career. And so I've kind of started looking into just different options and opportunities on the civilian side of aviation. And so, I mean, you could go a million different ways with that, like planes, helicopters, like staying helicopters or getting a fixed wing license. I have buddies that like fly offshores for oil rigs, a few friends that fly for hospitals doing like medevac airlift, things like that. They're out west. You can fly helicopters fighting the fires in like California, Washington State, like things like that. Like there are so many opportunities. And so I'm kind of just at this point, a lot of those jobs, almost as a corporate job, it require years of experience. These aviation jobs require a certain number of flight hours for you to have, and I'm nowhere near that quota. So I think right now my goal is just like seeing what the next step is going to be to build those hours. So people start out with all kinds of little jobs, like the little or planes that fly over the beach with the signs at the back, or doing helicopter tours. Like those are the type of low hour jobs you can get on the civilian side to just build hours. Being a flight instructor, like teaching other people to fly, surprisingly is a low time job that you can get. You can teach other people to fly with only a few hundred hours. So I just kind of explore my options there, and then hoping that later down the road I can pursue like a full-time career in aviation. And interior design is still on the burner, maybe on the back burner right now, but it's still on the stovetop. It's not, off yet. So I'm just keeping it in my pocket. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I loved it. And maybe that's something, like you said, I could do part-time or just, do as I please, but have a full-time career in aviation.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I didn't know, I have my husband actually got his pilot's license years ago. And I have a good friend of mine whose husband is a pilot, and I know he did flight school. I didn't realize we were just in Miami and those planes flying by with the banners. I didn't even think of that, but that makes sense that you
Yeah.
get your hours that way too. That's so interesting that, to look at what it is that's next for you. Well, I honestly have no doubt that whatever you pursue, you will be successful in. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited by the fact that you are the next generation and you are just this really awesome young lady. And I'm grateful that you said yes to me to take time for people to hear and learn a little bit about just how other people are mapping out their life and immersing themselves in growth and faith and all the beautiful things that you are so committed to. The last question that I ask when I have people on here is, who do you think is amazing women that you're inspired by or that you feel are amazing? And they don't have to be superstar celebrities that everybody knows. They can be people that in your personal life that aren't famous by any stretch, just ordinary, regular people, but who are the women or woman, one or more that come to mind when you think, wow, she's amazing?
Ooh, I love that question. I'm gonna shout out my mom. I have to. One, I already told you she, never gave up on her dreams, which, is such a good lesson to your children to show them that it doesn't matter where you are in life, you can always follow your dreams and be successful. So that, and then she is just so strong. She battled breast cancer and won the fight. So that is a big part of her story. And just the, how selfless she is with her children and just making sure we are always like squared away and just have everything we need. I don't know. It just, she's so selfless. She always makes sure we're taken care of. There was a time where like I was like going through a bunch of cars, like a bunch of hand-me-downs, because I hadn't like actually had my first like good car yet. It was just all hand-me-downs. And she was also in need of a car and sacrificed getting herself a car to get me a car that I wouldn't have to pay for it. And it was just like, just seeing how willing she was to say, I also need a car right now too, really bad, but you need one too. You're going to college. You need to have something safe to drive. You get your car. And like, I think it was like 3 years later, she finally got a car for her. But it was like, it took that long for her to like be able to like serve herself because she was so busy serving her kids first. And I just love her so much. She's awesome. And she's so sweet. Just a kind, gentle soul, like soft spoken and funny and just an angel. She's so sweet. So yeah, I have to shout out my mom for that one.
I love it. Well, obviously the apple doesn't fall far from the tree here, Cynda. She has given birth to just such a spectacular young lady. And I love to see that. I love to see you honoring her and loving her. And I love what she has built in you, which is pretty profound and pretty awesome. So I just want to
Well,
say
thank you.
yeah, and thank you again for being here. I believe you're amazing, Cynda Bradley, and I thank you so much for taking the time to hop on today. And I'm going to leave some information for anybody who wants to follow Cynda and do like me, the jaw dropping. What? She's in the Chinook helicopter now. What's she doing now? So I will leave information, contact information for people to connect with you on here as well. So thanks everybody. Stay safe and stay healthy, and sending you all lots of love. Bye.